Creating success out of failure. Creating success out of failure.
I'm Jonathan Federa. I'm here to inspire you to hustle and grow your income while doing what you love. Just because you have problems doesn't mean you can't prosper. Just because you have tragedy doesn't mean you can't triumph. Actually, you should be taking advantage of that.
There's positivity in my pain. I took scarcity and turned it into strength. I always tell life, there's not much you can do to me where I won't make an obstacle an opportunity. We never lose, we only learn lessons. If you wanna change your perspective. If you don't know how to do that, we'll show you how right now. This is about to go down. You are tuning in to creating success out of failure. Creating success creating success out of failure. Out of failure.
Hey everybody, welcome to Creating Success Out of Failure. We have a special guest with us, Ryan, today, and it's kind of cool because this is going to be our first business breakdown portion of this show, and Ryan's actually in a very similar industry as I am. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Ryan and have him tell you about what he does, and then we'll start getting into his business.
Yeah. Hey, Jonathan, thanks for having me on, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, tell us what you do.
So I own a company called Champion Payments. We're a merchant services firm. We're based out of Central Florida. We're I want to say we're a mom and pop shop, but we definitely service the mom and pop shops. That's our gig. We focus on small to medium sized businesses, helping them. It's not that we can't help the micro merchant or the really small business, the dog walker and the part-time personal trainer. It's not that we can't help McDonald's or Walmart. It's just that we like to help the people that are out there starting a small business, using their savings and their dream to go and get started. And the owners usually on site, owner managed businesses. That's the folks that we focus on. And so what we do is we provide them with low cost credit card processing services, and then for businesses that fit into the mold for your retail shops and your restaurants, we provide point of sale systems for them to run their business and provide them, the functionality they need to provide the products and services they offer, and then to also pull the business intelligence that they need after the fact to make good marketing decisions, to pay their taxes, God forbid, and whatever else it is that they have going on.
Nice. So how long have you been doing that?
I've been in this industry about 10 years. We started Champion Payments about 2 years ago.
And I mean, you'd say what we do is kind of related, right? I do the lending and what you do, and then you blend over into what I do, right?
Oh, absolutely. So yeah. There's definitely a lot of comparisons between what we do, the way we get clients, the clients we serve, you name it, our target market. I'm sure that we could go on and on about all the similarities. Definitely, it definitely makes for, I can tell you that companies like yours, hit me up all the time for partnerships. And I'm sure that, companies like mine hit you up all the time trying to, become referral partners and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the goal of this segment of the show is to kind of see where I can fit in, where I can help. So let's talk about some of the things you think you're doing well, right? What separates your business from, the competition? Because I will tell you, for a while, I'd probably say prior to the last year or two, it was always a race to the bottom in your industry.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Prior to that, it was a wild, wild west, and it was a gold mine. And now it's starting to come back into focus. And I think, unfortunately for you, like my space, you have a bunch of jokers coming in that know nothing about what's going on and actually hurting clients.
Oh yeah.
So I looked you up. I'm comfortable having you on here because you operate a different way. But tell me some of the things that you guys really do well compared to your competition.
Yeah, for sure. So I would say one of the things we do really well as a company is I've marketed myself pretty well, and from a local level, from your BNI groups, your chambers, all the good local stuff that you're supposed to do. We have a good reputation. We take care of our clients. If the choice on a matter of customer service is between, us losing and the customer winning, or the customer losing and us winning, we're going to choose the customer every single time.
Cheers.
Cheers. Exactly right. And, sometimes it costs us money, but in the long run, what it does is it keeps our Google rating at 5 stars.
Actually, I think that's bullshit. I don't mean to interrupt you. It doesn't cost you money. It doesn't cost you money. Right?
Correct,
People
right.
think about that.
And that's what I mean.
Long term, you're getting a lot more money. You know why? Because you're doing the right fucking thing.
Yeah, exactly right.
As opposed to all these other jokers that, screw everybody that they come in contact with.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned that in our industry, and it is, in our industry, the big, pink gorilla in the room. And it's unfortunate because, what happens is my biggest struggle every day, and our sales guys' biggest struggle every day, is to get in front of somebody and to help them understand that we're there to help. Mm-hmm. And the reason is because there have been a line of 10, jerks, waiting for their business. And they promised them the world, told them all this great stuff. And then what ends up happening is, in the end, they end up doing the exact opposite of what they said they were going to do. Mm-hmm. And that really doesn't lend credibility to our industry. And, unfortunately, it has opened the door for some really big, problems. Like, Square is a perfect example. The existence of Square and the success of Square, I would say a lot of it you can point to, whoever these guys are out there in the merchant services industry, going door to door, telling people one thing and doing another.
Yep.
And then when the people get their statement, they're, even more frustrated because, hey, he said he was going to save me $500 a month. I'm actually paying $500 more a month, whatever the specific scenario. Now I'm stuck in a lease on equipment that, he shipped it to me, told me I was going to point a sales system, but I ended up with, a credit card machine or an iPad or something like that I don't know how to use. And he doesn't answer his phone, or she doesn't answer her phone, whichever. Yep. I think it's equal opportunity between the genders, but I would say it's, mostly guys out there doing it.
Yeah.
So, cleaning up those messes is something we do pretty well. Actually, it's funny. We shot a video today at my office talking about that exact same thing. When a person starts a business, they have high hopes, right? They register with their state, Secretary of State to get their business filing done. They get an EIN for the IRS. And then what's the very next thing they do? They go to the bank and they get a bank account. And what happens when they go to the bank to get a bank account?
They pitch merchant services. They
pitch merchant services, exactly right. And in this case, it's a convenience service, right? And, it's the same thing as buying a soda at Disney World, right? You need the soda. You're going to drink the soda. You're going to enjoy the soda. Everything's going to go fine. But you're not going to spend the rest of your life buying sodas at the price that you paid at Disney World. You did it in that particular, instance for that reason. So when people start that business, they
That's
get
a great comparison, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I really like that. It's true.
It is. It is very true. Well, because it's a convenient service at that point, and it's a convenient sale. And so what they do is they take advantage of the convenience. They're thinking short term and not long term. And so we always try to think long term. How do I keep this customer for 5 or 10 years? Because again, you mentioned it, right? Doing the right thing ends up paying off in the long run. We do have a very high retention rate with our customers for that reason. But the process here now is they get that bank account, they get pitched for merchant services, so they get that account, and they're in a contract now for that merchant services, which most people feel like they're stuck in that case. They hear contract and they're like, the boogeyman's going to get them. And if they signed with Vantiv 5 years ago, they're right. But currently, the state of the union in merchant services is probably going to cost them around $500 to get out of that contract, and it won't be the end of the world.
Which is well worth it a lot of times when you actually do the analysis.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the newest thing on the block, and this has happened over the last few years, is that people are buying their restaurant and retail computer systems from a banker. And I understand why they do it. Again, it's that convenient service, right? You bought the filet mignon on the airplane because you were hungry and you wanted something low carb, right? But it wasn't a filet mignon, right?
No.
No, it really wasn't. It may have used to be a filet mignon, but it is what it is. And we can pick on Clover because I sell Clover. Clover's a good product for those people that are in the right market for a Clover. But there's one main reason that people don't like Clover, and that's because some sales guy somewhere or some banker oversold it to them and told them it was going to do more than it actually does.
Yep.
So, in this example where this business owner, starts a business, they get a bank account, they get a merchant account. Now they've got a computer system with a lease for 4 years, paying double what they probably should have paid for it. And again, they feel
the leases are fucked up.
Yeah. If they're high dollar leases, they're screwed up, right? Again,
we'll agree to disagree.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, people can finance it, people can pay cash for it, people can lease it. I mean, it's mostly about the financial. If you look at the financial opportunity, the fact, for example, we lease the Clover Flexes all the time when the restaurants have they're doing pay at the table and order at the table. Why? The servers drop these things like they're going out of style. They break. When you're leasing it, guess what? They get replaced.
Yeah.
Now, if you're charging $69 a month, which I think is the lease cap on a Flex, yeah, that's screwed up. But if you're charging, 19 or 29, then that's probably not as bad.
Yeah.
Especially when they're getting 3 or 4 of them over the life of the lease because they're dropping them,
Yep.
And it is what it is. So that's a side note. But the point is they're stuck in it, right? So many times the leases that we sign on Clovers, we end up having to pay off somebody else's lease, do a new lease in order to do that, or figure some other financial means of getting that done, getting them an account. We don't make any money necessarily on the front end. Many times we lose, depending on the size of the account, $500, $1,000, $2,000 on the front end. They think obviously that we're banking on that, but we're not. And then, obviously we're banking on the fact that we're going to, keep that customer again for 5, 10 years and make our money down the line. So helping people get out of those messes where they started with a bank or they started with somebody that sent them a misleading offer in the mail. Because again, you register with your state, Secretary of State filing organization, and guess what?
A million phone calls.
A million phone calls, a million little letters. And how do you sort through that?
Yeah, well, very similar to what we do, right? I agree with everything you're saying, right? So it's can be a dirty industry, and just to clarify for all the listeners, me and Ryan have no relationship.
Yeah.
Okay. We're not referral partners. We probably actually use different people for everything. I'm bringing them on here to see how I can help. And just the first challenge I've seen, because I want to get back to the challenges of your business and try and dissect it.
We've got challenges. Don't you worry.
Yeah. And we have that same challenge, just so you know, is people being lied to, fees, being overcharged. How much do you do on educational material?
It's funny. My marketing guy was in our office today. We were shooting video. We were actually shooting a video with that, a shortened version of that same story because it's going to be 2 minutes or less at this day and age, just for attention span.
Why do you say that?
Well, I'm thinking in an ad, right? So if somebody comes into my ecosystem, then, I've got their attention and maybe I can keep it for a while, but I got to hook them first.
True.
And then,
try this.
Okay.
Quick solution. Okay.
Sure.
The ad, 100%. 100%, that's where you have to be. If you can make it shorter, make it shorter.
Yeah.
YouTube, okay, which is the next frontier. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
And I pay a lot of money to be in masterminds with the top experts in the world. YouTube, a lot of people go in and tell you 6 minutes. You want 10 minutes.
Huh.
Okay? So you post it up there. Now, there's a lot more that goes into it on the back end, but that's something that you want to do and make one video a week for basically 6 months straight on content that is going to help.
Yeah.
And then you can actually segue that into almost like your own personal library to help educate new clients and existing clients.
Yeah, and that's it's funny you say that. So we now have a standing appointment Friday mornings, content. We're just going to record some content. We'll be able to take that, splice it up into different things, turn it into blog posts, turn it into whatever. It's funny. I used to do a lot more videos back in the day, a lot more training videos for our sales guys and stuff like that with previous organizations. I'm having to redo a lot of that stuff. And it's funny when you go back and you look at stuff like, oh my gosh, that stuff is so awful, but I'm probably going to look back at the stuff I do today and, tomorrow and next week and look back on it and think the same thing.
Here's the difference. 99% of the people don't want to do it.
Yeah, of course.
They don't understand how valuable it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Think about this, especially when you're trying to grow and scale a business. it's unrealistic for you personally, and I'm sure that if you want the training to come from you, to go in there and retrain everybody.
Yeah.
So you need a library of training so you can grow and scale.
Yeah.
And today, if people can't learn through video and they have to be in a classroom, it's going to be a little bit tough for you to be able to scale that way.
Absolutely.
And they might not be the right fit.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's right. And, you know, speaking of challenges, right? So one of our big challenges is other sales guys, right? Just being dirty. And, you know, how do you compete with somebody that's willing to say whatever, lie, cheat, and steal in order to beat the competition, right? You know, we're willing to do whatever it takes up to that point, right? So we stop where it turns into, you know, doing something morally, you know, incomprehensible to get a deal.
Yeah.
Especially because, you know, our philosophy and kind of one of the cool things about starting my own company, and this is one of the things that, again, we talk about things we do well that I think we're doing well, is culture. You know, my culture around the office, we love small business owners. My parents still to this day are small business owners. I'm a small business owner. And if we can love small business owners and see them as the backbone of the economy and see them as the people who are out there creating jobs, putting everything they have on the line, risking everything to, you know, live the American dream and make it happen. I mean, it's a beautiful thing when it works, right? And so if we can go in there and be an asset to them and not a liability, then I just feel like that's just a recipe for success. And so we created something called the Champion Promise. And it's what, you know, we roll it into some of our scripts. We roll it into some of our literature and stuff like that. And it basically just says that, you know, with Champion Payments, you're going to have the best experience you've ever had with any merchant services company you've ever done business with. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to provide great customer service, and what we say and what we do are going to match. That's a very simple thing to do, and it guides kind of everything else we're doing. And I think that we're really having success on it, because I couldn't put my finger, why do I have success? But then when I try to bring somebody else into the equation, they don't seem to have the same success that I have. And it's because I do this naturally, and that's naturally who I am. My parents were, you know, very big into integrity. It's just part of me. And it's not that other people are scumbags and the people that I bring in are scumbags. It's just that I think they don't have the ability to convey it in a way that doesn't seem cheesy and seems genuine, right? Hey, I'm not just trying to get your business. Like, literally, if you don't stay with us, I'm going to help you out any way that I can, you know, even if you don't use us, right? And then probably because of that, you're going to use us eventually, and I'm banking on that, but it's the long game, you know? And whether, you know, you do the right thing because it's the long game, or you do the right thing because it's the right thing, you know, in the end, you did the right thing all along, and that's, I think, what matters, you know? A lot of people talk. It's about kind of what you do, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And I think a big part of that and how to counteract that, again, it goes to the competition, is you having the right reviews in front of you and seeing what the competition's reviews look like.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Like, I can tell you, like, Sprout Lending, right? People look up Sprout Finance. People look up Sprout Mortgage. And it's a simple, easy mistake to make. However, when you read their reviews, they're awful.
Yeah.
Right? So I've had people email us, there's no way we're doing business with you. I'm like, all right, tell me what reviews you looked up. And then I have to send them our reviews. So that's always something good to have, you know, and have all your guys have, you know, moving into it. Because I actually had to do a training on that because it got so crazy.
Yeah, we actually need to do better. We would have 100 5-star reviews if it wasn't for the fact that we just don't do such a good job of getting people to do it. Obviously, it's something that I think of periodically, and so then I'll contact you like, hey, leave us a review, leave us a review, leave us a review.
There's services. Like, don't discount those services. They work great. Seriously.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, if you hook those up, they're pretty cheap, and as soon as something's done, they will get an email, and it'll almost harass them.
Yeah.
You know, and it's important. I mean, what I train everybody to do is, it's a little different between our businesses in this sense that when they get their funds, we know the transaction's complete. I guess it could be similar to yours.
Sure.
But once they're installed, for example, you make sure, hey, listen, just want to make sure you got everything. Do you have any questions? Great. All right, I'd really appreciate a review. By the way, is there anyone I could assist? Do you know anyone that I could provide a high level of service. We do the same thing.
Yeah.
And then another thing that is pretty big is handwritten thank you cards about 10 days after.
Yeah.
Right. And some level of a gift that they're going to use.
Sure.
You know? And I'm not talking about like the cheesy pens or.
Oh no, we're about to send out Lysol wipes, I think. So
that could be the most popular guy on the block. Like, here's some Lysol wipes and some toilet paper.
Yeah, exactly right.
And listen, if you're listening to this in the future, okay, and you might not get the joke, but the joke's about and it's not. I mean, it's funny, but people are freaking out because of the coronavirus.
Yeah, well, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. You know, I mean, that's just how that goes.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
What are some of the other things you think you guys need help with as a company, right? It might not be selling.
As a company. So we've hired some support staff in the office. So from an operations standpoint, I feel like we do a good job of helping the customer, right? That was important to me because I knew that for the foreseeable future when I started this company that I was going to be our top sales guy, period. And so with that being said, I had to figure out a way to take off of my plate the pieces of the puzzle where I go make a promise. I can't also go be the guy that makes good on the promise. I had to have people to do that. So I started doing that. But now that I've got the operation side, up and running, I've worked with some recruiting companies that make calls and bring in applications. And I've worked on, trying to get these people trained and up and running and things like that. And my struggle today is on recruiting quality salespeople. And I think that it's a multifaceted issue. It involves the compensation plan. It involves whether that W-2 or 1099. It involves, how we're generating leads for them. That's another thing, lead generation, right? Mm-hmm. We do a great job at the old school lead generation, method.
Door to door?
Oh yeah, bro. I mean, we can, and obviously I'm not going door to door very often anymore, right? But our sales guys, when they start out, that's the name of the game, right? And hey, if they're not hitting, 20 or 30 doors a day, a lot of people say, oh, you got to hit 50 doors a day. I'm like, look, if they can hit 20 to 30 doors 2 or 3 times a week and then do follow-ups and build their pipeline in that manner, that's going to be a recipe for success if they actually do it, right? But again, I mean, there's pieces of the puzzle that I see that, I'm not saying that that's the dinosaur way to do it, mm-hmm. but I know that it's the dinosaur way to do it coming up.
That works, yeah.
But exactly, the problem is that it's low-hanging fruit for us as a business for short-term revenue. And so what I'm trying to do is get some guys that are selling enough for us that I can take not my eyes off of it, but my foot off the gas on my personal efforts, and so that I can focus on doing the bigger things that are going to produce, leads for us without that, I don't know, I think you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, you're bringing in the majority of the revenue, and you want to focus on more big picture things, and it's tough.
It is.
I have been in that same boat for a year, so I'll just go on to what I've done. Okay. Yeah. Let me ask you this. What do you enjoy? Okay. Because this was a big deciding factor in what and how I chose to approach this. Yeah. So what do you enjoy? Do you enjoy working on the business, or do you enjoy helping the clients? Because for me, I actually really like working with my clients.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. I mean, I like both. When I growing up, my dad used to call me Flash and Dash. Just my personality type, right? I come in, I've got great ideas. I can fix anything, right? I mean, I can kind of give people, hey, do this. The problem comes when there's substance and time and effort that needs to be put in on a consistent basis, right? So again, I have the method for that I can put on autopilot even for myself to just go and do, right? So I do enjoy selling. And so what I've been trying to do is start by basically creating a system of openers and closers. Again, I still feel like that is a long-term, just another side of the same coin that I'm playing with, right? Still cards in the same deck, so to speak. That we're, just having people go out and do the cold calling, because that's the part you don't want to do, right? But I do like going in and, putting the deal together, figuring out, what's the solution for this person's problem, making them happy, shaking hands. And then I would love to drop it like it's hot, walk away, and somebody else just magically makes it happen. Now, even still today, I have to guide that process because it's just the state of where we are,
Got it.
But but I do enjoy that piece. Now,
Yeah.
again, I know that forever that's not going to be my role, but if I could have that piece put together and be able to put people in other markets, right? We're in Central Florida. We've got a big circle of clients around here in Central Florida. We're in the I-4 corridor in Tampa Bay area. And so for us, we've got clients, all the way up into, actually I'm flying to Nantucket of all places on Sunday to do an install. I had only, the only thing I knew about Nantucket was Dirty Jokes by Andrew Dice Clay. And, that's all I'd ever heard of it. I guess it's next to Martha's Vineyard, flying up there this Sunday to go handle some client business. And then, but generally our clients are here in Central Florida, over to Orlando, south to Naples. And then, but then I've got people, that are possibly coming on for us as agents that want to come on in Ohio. So it's just, being able to train them and get them up and running and recruit them and have them be quality salespeople that represent our brand well. I mean, that's a big piece of the puzzle there.
So I'll kind of outline. There's a lot of different things to touch on there.
Yeah, for sure. I know.
That was a hot mess. That was a long one. So let me try to help as much as I can there. So
Sure.
One, me personally, I like to help clients. I also understand that if I don't work on the business and I'm always working in the business, I'm never going to grow.
Yeah.
So one of the things I do, I break things down to micro tasks, macro tasks. It kind of sucks for right now, but I work on macro stuff like content and all that stuff, usually over the weekend. Okay.
Okay.
I do all of that stuff. And like, we're doing this podcast at 6 o'clock on a Friday. That's because my office left. So I siphon out time where I'm not going to be bothered to work on big picture things. I meet with my partner when it's not too crazy, and we can go through all these action items that are going to drive the business to the next level. And I stick to a schedule like you would not believe. That has allowed me to bring on new programs. I actually just created a financing program that's really cool. And it's with my team, obviously. And that's allowed me to move the big picture things. As far as hiring and recruiting, first off, doesn't matter who. I mean, I know there's people that specialize in it. It sucks for everybody. Okay? Yeah. What we've done, we hired a VA that was really good, specialized in recruiting, and we run ads to her, and she vets them out based on our core values and if it's a good fit. Once a few people get through the gatekeeper and there's a lot of hoops to jump through, then we have, depending on what position is, one of the department heads interview them. If it's a fit, we bring them on. Okay? That helps, especially a company like yours, because you might want local feet on the street in different areas.
Yes.
Throughout the country. That's what we have.
Yeah.
That's kind of how we've done it, and it works pretty well. The other thing is, when you're talking about training and scaling, you touched on the videos, but for some reason, I don't think you have everything that you'd want to have in order to bring them on and onboard them very quickly.
For sure.
There's nothing more important than you building that, right?
Yeah.
So what I would tell you is, if you get a system like Trainual, all right?
It's funny, we're looking at that. It's on my plate right now. We're looking at Trainual. There's a couple others. Damon John has a training platform as well. So, but yeah, Trainual, you guys like it?
I love Trainual, and here's why. You give them tests. Most of them have similar features. For a while, we used ClickFunnels, but Trainual is way better.
Sure.
There's some really expensive ones like Kajabi, right? But you don't need that. Trainual gives people tests after. So you can kind of see who's getting it, who's not. Now, if you start seeing things getting messed up on one side, right? So we have sales, we have process, we have programs. If you start seeing results, you can go in there, change it pretty quick, right? Okay. Not just on the test, but on people's actual performance, right? And that has helped tremendously us to scale. The other thing is, you said you're flying out to Nantucket this weekend to train, to install.
Yeah.
To me, that's fucking mind blowing. And I don't mean this insulting, but there's no way the owner, like, see if you could get somebody that just specializes in that. Yes, it's going to cost money.
Yeah.
And probably a lot of money, honestly.
Well, I mean, I am taking one of my installers with me.
Okay.
To go and do it.
All right. So you're just meeting the client face to face?
Exactly
Really?
right. Yeah.
All right, then that makes sense. It's probably a pretty big deal.
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah. I don't
So
fly to Nantucket, for, just nothing.
yeah, I
Hey,
got you.
oh yeah.
I
20 grand
got
a
you.
month doing
Yeah,
you know,
but
Pax S80.
but those are just my suggestions for that. And just know, and you should tell your back office team, and you should have the expectations that when you do put these things in place, things are going to break, right?
Yeah.
Like Henry Ford said, I wanted to build the fastest engine. The only way I did that was by running it to max capacity, seeing what broke, and then rebuilding it.
Yeah.
It is so true for businesses like ours and most businesses that's going to happen. So
Sure.
aligning the idea that this is going to happen over and over again is huge. I'll give you an example. At one point, I had like 40, almost 50 advisors throughout the country. Okay. And things broke. When things broke, well, that's when we had to figure out what was wrong. We figured out we were bringing on so many clients. It was actually the process of us bringing on clients that was breaking and taking time. So we had to revamp that whole thing, which took time, effort, energy, and a ton of money to build those systems the right way.
Sure.
Same thing's going to happen when you do that. I guarantee it. Just expect it.
Yeah, and we were using Trello. Are you familiar with Trello?
Yes.
So we were using Trello to take certain tasks and things that were repeated tasks and say, hey, look, here's a checklist. This is how you do this. Because, some of the things that we do, especially from a point of sale support side, is very technical. So if somebody needs to stage equipment for a Windows-based point of sale system, then that's going to be a process. Obviously they have to have some base knowledge to even look at the checklist, but once they have it, they have the checklist, they know what to go through and all that. And we even took some other steps to build some scripts and things that they could run that does some stuff automated.
Mm-hmm.
Automation is huge. All of that stuff just takes. You have to take. It's funny, and it's super funny. You watch some of these videos about guys that are doing it right. You know what I mean? And they'll talk about this tool or that tool, and then it's work to set some of this stuff up, especially to set it up properly.
Of course.
And so doing that, and then sometimes you're like, well, I don't know which direction we want to go. And sometimes you're stuck in that it's the opposite of the Goldilocks zone. It's that, death by 1,000 cuts zone where if you were at this next step, then setting up that automation would work perfectly. But because you're missing, this key piece or whatever, this key person, you can't, set it up to be as automated as you want or whatever. I mean, it's excuses are excuses. Sometimes you just got to work through the growing pains. But But automation really does help, and having things to where hey, it automatically sends out the emails when this person gets voted for this thing or that thing, because then it's done, and the client's not waiting. Communication is key, so it's a lot of those pieces are really helpful to have automated. Even in the sales process, it's helpful.
Absolutely.
That when I have these guys put stuff into our CRM, which we're currently using Zendesk Sell. It's just what we started out using for just our lead management. All our processing partners, and we use one primarily, and we use that CRM to manage all of our tickets for customer service and things like that. We've got a good, again, like I said, operational system, but it doesn't link right now together to our boarding platform and all of that. So
got it.
So managing.
Can you zap it in or no?
I don't think so. No, I think because it's a proprietary software. Now, it's funny that you just said that. I honestly have not checked. I would have to check it. But
well, the bottom line is if they're both open API and if it's proprietary and you built it, it absolutely should be.
Yeah. You'll
be able to zap it. The only challenge I've ever seen with zaps, because we use them a ton, they can break and fail. It's not a big deal to hook them back up.
Sure.
It's a little bit tedious, a little bit of a pain in the ass, but you usually can get most of it done. Or you wind up paying out the nose through for some type of CRM software that is for your industry or a little bit more robust, like a Salesforce, like Infusionsoft.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, listen, Zendesk Sell is a per head deal, and right now it's affordable. But I see some of these things these tools that you're mentioning, right? 100, $150 a head, if the goal is to have, 100, reps out of the field, I mean, I don't know.
Oh, it's big money.
It is. It's big money. And at that point, it probably makes, sense to invest in something yourself or,
Yeah. And then the other problem is, not all reps are created equally, right?
Absolutely.
So if you're paying $100, $200 a head,
yeah,
there might be months, unfortunately, that doesn't even cover, their production doesn't cover that nut.
Absolutely.
Okay, I've seen it on my end.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's a problem.
and what I'm working on, the reason that I went ahead and pulled the trigger on any CRM is I figured I have to build the list, right? And so as long as these people are getting touched by us, if the guy went in and got a business card and that's all he ever did, but they ended up on our list for our ability to send them emails or reach out via phone or whatever, at least we're doing the part on our side from a global standpoint to nurture those leads.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So we're doing okay with that piece right now. But again, the scale, like you just mentioned, is where you break things. And, And we absolutely, I mean, I can already see some of the spots that would be broken.
Yeah. Like what? What do you think it would break for you?
Well, sales support.
Okay.
For example, so one of the things that I do, especially with guys that just start out, is we don't allow them to touch our boarding system.
Okay.
And so once they're tenured, they know the business, they understand pricing and merchant services, which, listen, if you're not in the merchant services industry or don't understand it, you're listening to this, right? Credit card processing is complicated by design, all right? It was created by credit card companies and banks. What's the tallest buildings in every downtown, right? It's banks and insurance companies. That should tell you everything you need to know. They're going to get their money. I know people think that when they pay their bill, they're like, oh, I paid you $2,000 last month. And I'm like, listen. I paid out $2,000 on your behalf last month is really what happened there.
Yeah.
Because we're really just, collecting and then dispersing it to everybody else, to the banks, honestly.
Yeah.
So I was going somewhere with this. Where was I going? I was talking about something.
What would break?
Oh, what would break? Right. So in that process of, man, where was I? I just totally blew my train of thought. So
they don't touch your boarding system.
Oh, they don't touch our boarding system. Perfect. Okay. So the reason they don't touch our boarding system is because the back end piece of credit card processing can be a bit complicated.
Uh-huh.
And so there's 10 different ways to price a merchant account. And it's one of the problems in educating merchants is like, well, what's your rate is one of the most common questions we get. And I can tell people a rate, but what that translates into their brain as, and whether that's good or bad or indifferent, will all depend on their context for what is a good rate and what pricing structure they're familiar with.
Yep.
And so because of that, like I mentioned, we have them do everything on paper. So in the very beginning, they go and they get paper applications. Well, obviously, then that paperwork has to come into us. We have to make sure it's correct. If it's not correct, we got to send it back to them, say, hey, we got to correct this. We'll mark it up for them on our copy, right, just so they can see what they need to do. And then again, we need a signed, correct copy of how it's supposed to be. And that's a training tool that's a live and in living color way to do it. However, in our particular boarding tool at the moment, when they submit something, and I know other boarding tools have the ability to fix this, but in our current one, when they submit it, it goes live to the processing underwriter. And if they screwed something up, I do not want to go into the underwriter first, because then that puts a red flag. It causes red flags for us, causes more work for the underwriter, honestly. And then when they see our name on the other end of that, they get, aggravated and they're like, oh, here comes another, champion deal. So right now we run very clean business. Everything's kind of, checked before, it goes. So
you collect the paper doc, review it, put in like DocuSign or something, and then resend it, making sure everything's right.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And
no, I get it.
And so that system will break, right? So there's got to be a great training process. And one of the easy ways to fix that, right, is to fix the part of the boarding tool with some sort of hierarchy for us to check it as an office, for us to submit it, and all that kind of stuff. But and again, like I know, I've been doing this for 10 years. I've used many boarding systems. The current one just doesn't have it.
Yeah,
it has a lot of features that I didn't have before. So
for the listeners in Evan, that have never seen this, and this is guys, I've been doing this since 2008, and I do know a lot about that side of it. Definitely not as much as Ryan. You need a fucking PhD in rocket science to fucking fill out one of those apps. To the point where I literally just switched who I used because they wouldn't walk me through one. Because I had a client that needed to get boarded like ASAP so I can get them financing. And there's so much shit. And the other problem I about that industry is like there's so many different ways for people to hide fees.
Oh yeah.
Okay? It's disgusting. Which is again why you have like a Square coming in or PayPal coming in. And yes, they make it super simple to understand what your fee breakdown is. And and correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, somebody's doing like 5K, I think up to like 8K is how it breaks down. Kind of makes sense. Sure. Once you go above that, it is absolutely not a good idea to use one of those services because you're getting charged a lot more, even though it's just a flat, whatever they charge now, $275 or.
This is actually a great little piece because this is a big misconception in our industry. Most people think that it's the volume that makes the difference. The biggest piece of the puzzle is the average ticket. What is that average sale? And so a lot of people don't know this. Square just changed their pricing structure recently from.
No, I did not know that.
So it was 2.75 flat for swipe transactions and then 3.5% and 15 cents for keyed transactions. That's just what it was. Well, what that means is that if your average ticket is under, $10, $8, $5, right? You're a coffee shop, a smoothie shop, a sandwich shop. Somebody with a small average ticket, then you are making out great because you're a lot of times what they call your interchange, which let's just say that's or pass-through cost is the cost of processing. It's what actually goes back to the banks, not to the processor. In many cases, it's higher than 2.75. A perfect example of this is in a good, anecdote is that debit cards were, in 2010, where the Dodd-Frank bill was passed, they regulated it, and they said that all banks with $10 billion or more in assets are going to have to charge the same flat rate for debit card transactions. It's 22 cents on the per item side. Well, on a $5 transaction, that's 4.4%.
Yep.
And so please excuse me if I run too quick for you, all right?
No, I'm good with math. I'm not good with the fucking apps you guys fill.
Yeah, but that's not just you, right? So somebody walks up to a Square merchant and they're paying $5 for a sack of donuts and a coffee. Yep. And guess what? That's a 4.4% transaction that would cost me 4.4% before we even get to process it or do anything
Square was
else.
taking it in the shorts on those guys.
Square was losing money on those guys. All right.
They're doing the same thing in financing right now, by the way.
Yeah, well, it's a smart move for these guys that have big pockets that can come in and can just try to make a big sweep for market share because that's what Square was doing. They started out again going for that garage sale or that dog walker or not that dog walkers don't have legitimate businesses, by the way. If you have a dog walking business, it is a legit business. I just met a guy doing like $250,000 a year walking dogs. So I mean that's beside the point, but I don't want to offend the dog walkers in the audience, right? So the Square, of the world, they come in and they take up market share and they're thinking of this as marketing, right? These people they're losing money on, that's marketing. Because get this, in November of last year, when they changed their rates from 2.75 flat, they changed it to 2.6% and 10 cents. So now all of those people that were, keeping their rates low, and thinking that they were like, oh, everybody else is just a jerk off and they're screwing people, right? Because you could tell them, hey, listen, Square's losing money on you. Like, oh, why is Square going to lose money on me? That doesn't make any sense, right? Because they're kind of in disbelief. But they didn't understand that this was a strategy from their part. Because guess what? The day they changed their rate structure, every single one of those clients became profitable whether they kept using them or not. When they stopped using them because the rate structure changed, Square made more money than they did the day before.
Yep.
That's hard to wrap your brain around because if there's zero volume going in on something I'm losing money on, guess what? I'm not losing money anymore. Yep. And if you keep the volume going through on the new rate structure, now I'm making way more money. So let's just say that Square's stock shot through the roof around November of last year because of that change. Because everybody knew it was a smart move. They were tenured in the marketplace long enough. They had started to put out some good technology tools. And now they are a real competitor to guys like me in the merchant services realm. Granted, my tech, my special gadgets and gizmos, my stuff that we do for restaurants and retail is way better than what Square has. But what they have is a low barrier to entry and a simple pricing structure.
Yep.
And that's something that we can all copy. We can all look at that and say, hey, that's a good way. If you want to scale to the masses, keeping your message simple is important.
I agree. There's a great book on that. I preach about story brand selling.
Okay.
The problem is someone like me, you, Evan, we don't have, $1 billion backing us to lose money up front, right? That's correct. That's just the truth.
Yeah.
So, it's dirty. And I will tell you, Square and some of these other boutique lenders, Cabbage, they're going to be into it for a world of hurt. Like, just based on their underwriting procedures, right? They raised all this money. You look at it on deck, and I have friends at on deck. I like on deck, right? But you look at all these companies in this space, and it didn't really make sense what they did. It still doesn't, some of their underwriting guidelines. And then when they tighten it up, they lose market share. But if you're going for market share, when you're putting money out on the street, and by the way, your industry, no different, because
correct.
They're still putting money out on the street, and there's risk involved. Yeah. So when this happens, you see huge, widespread adjustments, and then the whole let's gain as much market share as possible kind of goes out the window, because you're eating into your reserves that you raised and effectively screwing your shareholders.
Yeah, no, there's a perfect example out there. There's a point of sale company that has that is specific for restaurants that has just swallowed up a ton of market share in the point of sale industry recently. And I think the most recent VC, funding injection they got, I want to say that it was something stupid like $750 million, right? Now listen, when you're trying to create good products for an industry, $750 million will do it, right?
Yeah,
if you give me $750 million, I'm going to make you a fantastic widget to go out and sell to any industry that is going to be the best of the best. Now, granted, maybe there's some outliers out there, but still. So what they do is they go out there and they promise everybody, hey, we're going to keep your credit card processing rates the same. You have to use our processing in order to, so we'll just match what you have. Here's the unfortunate reality for them. In order for them to stay profitable profitable enough in order to pay all of the people with their hand out, reaching out for them to pay, they have to raise their credit card processing rates. So people who were at, normal average ticket restaurant, or your $30, $40 average ticket restaurant, riding around the 2.5% mark, now they're at 3.5%. And if you're doing $100,000 a month, right, that's an extra $1,000. So this is not something where this is a small matter. And so somebody who made a decision on a point of sale system to, hey, I'm going to pay 250, 350, 400, whatever the number of station size, a month, they're paying a monthly fee for this. They took that into account when they made that buying decision, assuming that everything was going to stay the same on the processing, or in many cases promised to get better, right? It's the same issue that we have with saying one thing and doing another.
Yep.
The problem is the sales guy that sold it to him, he probably had good intentions.
Yeah,
he's probably a nice guy.
He doesn't know.
It's not that he doesn't know. He's powerless and helpless to control it.
Yeah.
Right? And so when you have a systemic, or a systematic process in place to, hey, after 3 months or after 6 months, we crank it 10 basis points. Then after another 6 months, we crank it, 20 basis points, more than that, right? When you have that system in place in order to pay your bills, in order to continue your growth pattern and all that, it just is what it is. It's a reality of what's happening,
Mm-hmm. All for us.
Right, and it's like that. I want to say in a lot of industries, business owners, again, they're small business owners. They need to be focused on, running their business and making money. And if they're having to go back and focus on, hey, is this guy, coming back around the corner and lying to me and stabbing me in the back? It's just, they don't have time for that. So many times they lose money for months and months and quarters and years on end, not realizing this is happening to them. So it's very frustrating.
Yeah, I get it. What do you think? Is there anything else that you think you're struggling at that we could that I might be able to help?
If I had to say, passive lead generation is a big one for me. Recruiting and hiring good salespeople, and again, there's all kinds of pieces of that puzzle. And then I would say sometimes we have issues with our own vendors, making sure that we have good vendors in place. That are sharing our values and staying operational. Luckily, our core product, we've always had a very good relationship with our core vendors. That's good. But there's other ancillary things that I could definitely tighten up on. And again, it just takes time of vetting, and again, it's an exhaustive process.
That's what you said. Like it's vetting, right? It's getting to know people, getting the right introductions, and kind of meeting them face to face.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think there's a silver bullet to vet vendors, you know, except trial and error.
Well, and in the past where I would have, shot first and asked questions later with that type of stuff, I'm less apt to bring a service on to our arsenal to provide to our merchants, because I'm much more careful with those relationships today than I was in the beginning. But I think mostly because of just experience, just learning from what not to do over time. And thank God we haven't had any major catastrophes or anything like that. But enough to where I thought, hey man, that could have not gone. If I hadn't stepped in at this point or yada yada, I could have gone this way or that way. That wouldn't have been good for the merchant. And our merchants are small business owners, right? These people don't have time to be getting jerked around by the credit card guy or the extra service that the credit card guy offered.
Absolutely. Evan, you have any input, questions, comments? I know a lot of it was like over your head because it's like industry stuff, and I'm not, that's not a knock on you.
No, I know. I haven't been saying a whole lot because I'm not in, an industry related to you guys. I work on podcasts.
But you are though, right? You are, because at the end of the day, you own a business.
True. So in a broad sense, I am. Yes.
No.
No, I mean, I just, a lot of, I'm probably not that any level is worse than another one, but you guys are a couple of levels higher than me. Doesn't mean I'm working to get there, but it doesn't mean I'm not working to get there. But I haven't reached a lot of those challenges. However, I know that, a lot of things you guys have talked about, if I take it and kind of distill it, it would still apply to me.
Hey, then you need to work on your operational processes. You need to work on lead generation. You need to work on your marketing. And hey, content, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, if you start thinking about and implementing the stuff that we discussed at where you're at, it'll make your goal of scaling that much easier. Because I can tell you that at a certain point, like when we said, hey, turn it on and see what breaks, if you can think ahead of what could break, because we discussed that, that makes it a lot easier.
It is a big deal. And a piece of advice, Evan, for you and for really anybody that's in your shoes, where you're thinking, first off, that you're a small fry. You're not a small fry, right, bro? You're doing it, right? I mean, you're providing a service to the marketplace. That's a big deal, and that it really is the first step. And if you want to scale and you want to get, to where I am or the next level, which would be where Jonathan is, and actually Jonathan may be a couple more levels above that. I'm not 100% sure, but what I would say is
we're all in the same boat, guys.
Log into Trello and record the step-by-step pieces of the things that you do, the things that you would love somebody else to do.
That's gold. Record
the step-by-step instructions, because if you can do that, then you can bring somebody else in, and many times if somebody that is just intuitive to an extent, they can take that step-by-step instructions and just run with it.
Absolutely. VAs save fucking lives. We've built a good chunk of our operations off of virtual assistants. And like I'll tell you right now, and we're not going to get into it because Ryan, I want to respect your time. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
And I hope this helped you.
Yeah. It encouraged me the most. I'll tell you that. I mean, it's
good.
Yeah.
Good. But use that stuff. I'm telling you, it works. Yeah. Like we tested. Like we're beyond the point of like testing what works. So trust me on that stuff.
Yeah. Well, Trainual, I would say, is one of the big things that I got out of, because I've been vetting, trying to figure out which one to use, and honestly, it just like anything else, until you use something, you don't know if it's going to work or not. So
the YouTube nugget is gold too.
Yes.
Even if you don't know it yet.
Yeah. Oh, listen, I have a standing appointment every Friday now. Yeah. And I'm going to use it. We'll use that. 10 minutes.
Yep. So what I would tell you, fuck was I just talking about? Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, I don't know what you're gonna say.
No, it was important too. The VAs, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so in today's like take today for example, things getting shut down, and we briefly discussed how this is going to impact small business. Although I think it's going to be 10 times worse than anyone fears. And I don't think it's the virus itself; it's how the media is playing it and how the country's reacting to it.
Yeah.
Regardless, this is not. I don't want to go into that. I'm going to make separate stuff and get that out. However, the fact is, a company like mine that is doing what we do, having all those VAs all over the place, we are much more dynamic, flexible, and quicker to adapt.
Interesting.
When
yeah.
you have these, as opposed to, like, if you look at my competition, what does my competition do? Most of these guys are in a giant room with 40, 50 people. Meanwhile, I have 2 offices and a whole bunch of VAs spread out all over the place. What does that mean? Well, I'm a lot more dynamic. My guys, guess what? We're working over the weekend because we want to make sure we save some business owners because I know what's coming down the pipe. Other companies, they can't react like that. They're not as dynamic. So when a problem occurs like this, God, and I don't wish this on anyone, but what happens if one of those guys gets sick? And, and Trump just said, they're banning businesses with 50 or more employees in one spot for the next 2 weeks. That's a big, big deal.
Yeah.
Okay. So those guys, they have to close. Meanwhile, we're dynamic. And if one of our, and I hope this doesn't impact anybody personally. It's just, we have more flexibility versus, your standard big companies.
Yeah.
Okay. So VAs do matter, and they're great to have if you train them in roles, even if you don't need them, because you can turn them on if, in case of things happening, right?
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
But listen, Ryan, I really do appreciate you coming on here. Evan, thanks for, helping out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sitting back and learning.
Yeah, no, for sure. And what I want to say is, listen, if you guys are out there listening to this, I hope you got a lot of value out of it. And the one thing I'm going to ask you guys, leave a 5-star review and share this with somebody that needs to hear it. Share with other business owners, because we want to bring on more business owners to kind of help them and dissect what they're doing and maybe implement things that I've already done that can really impact their business, because that's what we're here to do. And don't think of it, listen, if you don't own a business, don't think of this as just for business owners, because it's not. If you run a big sales team, this applies to you, right? If you're in sales and you want to go and open up a shop, this applies to you. If you want to be a manager, this all applies to you. So please share this with someone that can really use it. All right, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for tuning in to Creating Success Out of Failure. Please share this with someone that needs to hear it, post it on social media, and leave us a 5-star review. I'll catch you on the next one.
Creating success out of failure.